Good morning. It's Scott Cullen, editor-in-chief of the Cannata Report. It's time for Fridays with Frank, and here he is, Frank Cannata, our founder. Hey, Frank, how you doing this morning, and what's on your mind?
Oh, I'm doing great, Scott, and I hope the same for you. And I'd like to follow up on a frankly speaking piece that I wrote called "Technology: A Blessing or a Curse." And what precipitated this was I was reading the New York Times, which I do online regularly. And it was an article by this author, Ruth Fressman, where she was writing about a gentleman who had spoken to what they call a chatbot for chatbot. I'm not quite sure I pronounced that correctly, for 2 hours. And he had the whole transcript. I mean, she had the whole transcript, and I read through the thing. It was fascinating as to how this thing responds to these questions. But that's not the main reason I wanted to really address this in a Fridays with Frank, in addition to Frankly Speaking. I use that title appropriately. It's a blessing or a curse. Think about our industry. It's an industry that was built on the premise of close contact with the customer, continuation of a dialogue and building a relationship so that you have a continuing relationship. And we all know within the industry what that means. Now, if we adopt this technology, which I'm sure at some point we will, that's inevitable. You don't hold back technology. You got to advance with the technology as it becomes available. But the reality is that basically neuters what dealers do in terms of building the relationship. The concept is very simple. The customer goes online and perhaps using Microsoft's Bing server, which employs these chatbots, and do whatever it is that you want to do. And now it does far more than facilitating the ordering of something. It creates things. It responds to questions. According to the author, you could ask it virtually anything, and it'll tell you, like you're speaking to a human. How do you feel? I wanted to get back to the main theme, which is how dealers have to take a look at this type of thing and understand that this is where the technology is going. Now, obviously, the precursor to all this advancement is e-commerce. And that is readily apparent. That is, it's in the cards. You've got to take the technology and make it work for you, and you can make it work for you. I mean, essentially what e-commerce is, and I don't think it's any secret because most of us go online to buy different things all the time. And that's basically the same thing. You go online, you want to get an A4 MFP as an example. The thing that a dealer delivers is the expertise, the explanation, the understanding that the customer should get the thing that's best suited for what their application is, be able to recommend certain features, and if necessary, some finishing or whatever. In a normal e-commerce situation, as I understand it, there will be very little of that type of dialogue. Now, that doesn't mean there can't be. And the way I kind of envision this all working for dealers, obviously, when something, let's say, is sold, it's a model A4 MFP, and it's a 25 or 30 page per minute device, that then becomes a record for the dealer. You should then assign that to a salesperson to ensure that, number one, or doesn't even have to be a salesperson, could be a technical type person, to assure the customer that they're there to support should they have any questions or any need, because as I understand it, these things will be able to be sold with service agreements. And then if they're not sold, then they could be explained to the customer that these things are available. So number one, you establish the contact with the customer. It no longer becomes just a communication via computer. From that, you can discuss further what the customer is using it for, just as you would as if you had facilitated the sale and met with the customer, and then periodically maintain and contact with the customer, and continue to do what you've done before. Obviously, when you're doing something where you're selling a device online and you have a website, and someone in 2 or 3 states from where you're located wants to buy or does buy, and the supposition here is that in putting up one of these networks, that the dealer is part of a network of dealers who can sell and support a particular line. I'm talking about for those that are selected within the dealer's own geography. And I don't think it's any more complex than that. And I know a lot of dealers are hesitant to really get into a discussion about e-commerce, and they shouldn't be. They should take a look and accept it for what it is. You know, I look at technology, in the beginning, it can be destructive. There are many industries where technology has been employed, and because what the technology does is it really reduces labor. So people are affected that were previously doing the work that brought the end result of that the technology has made mute and not necessary. But that's just a short-term view. The long-term view is that the technology creates more jobs because of the people that have to be employed to develop the technology, service the technology, and improve it. And those people obviously have to be well-trained, extremely well-educated, and that takes time. So there's going to be a period, at least the way I look at it, there's going to be some displacements. And it's not going to be fun time for some people if they're not prepared for it. And obviously, in our situation, I think, how will it affect the dealers? I think the dealers who are involved in IT services are okay. I don't think that will be a serious problem. It's something that we should all think long and hard about, and not say, oh boy, the technology is advancing. We all know that the pandemic accelerated the implementation of technology in the office. It is not going to stop. I don't want to sound like a doomsday advocate, because I'm not, and that's not what it's all about. It's an awareness, being conversant. But the fundamental belief here, and I think it's shared by many, dealers have to get involved in IT services. I don't think there's any other way to look at this. So that's kind of my pitch for today. And I would urge everybody to read the Frankly Speaking piece, which says technology a blessing or a curse, and take advantage of the tip that I give you on it. Go online. This is so easy to research. There's numerous. It's written in many different journals, many different newspapers, where you can pick the one that you like to read and see what they have to say.